From Johan Cruyff to Memphis Depay, from Ruud Gullit to the looping header of Van Persie, from having strikers like Bergkamp and Van Basten to a center back being the face of the whole team, Dutch football is a story on its own. The thing about the Dutch is that there has never been a single pattern to the team or the players. France, for example, has always had a generational attacker as the face of the national team, like Platini to Zidane to Mbappe. But every time the Netherlands come to center stage, their team, from new players to a new playstyle, never follows the same pattern. While the new generation is very different from the previous Dutch teams that we have seen, they have the ingredients to succeed on the international stage again. The Netherlands have some great players right now. Van Dijk is the best center back in the world, Xavi Simons is one of the fastest rising stars, and Frankie de Jong is an excellent central midfielder. But in the past, the Dutch had even better players. They had competed in 11 FIFA World Cups, appearing in the final 3 times in 1974, 1978, and 2010. They finished runners-up on all 3 occasions. They also appeared in 10 UEFA European Championships, winning the 1988 tournament in West Germany. In fact, they were so good as a national team that they are regarded as the best team that has never won a World Cup. The Netherlands' first golden generation came in the 1970s, where they would begin to use the total football philosophy. Total football is a tactical system in which every player can take over the role of any other player on the team. It's a fluid system where there's no fixed or predetermined positions. To be able to play that style, you need intelligent players. Manager Rinus Michels used the system at Ajax and the Netherlands national team because he had Johan Cruyff. Led by Cruyff and the total football philosophy, the Dutch made it to 2 back-to-back World Cup finals. They also reached the semi-finals in the 1976 Euros. On top of Cruyff, there was also other players like Kaiser, Willem van Hanegem, and Johnny Rep. But the total football team ended after the 1980 Euros. Many veterans retired, and the Netherlands hit a low point in their history, missing the 1982 World Cup in Spain, Euro 1984 in France, and the 1986 World Cup in Mexico. They wouldn't find success again until Michels returned to coach the national team for the 1988 Euros. With Michels as the mastermind, along with the talents of Gullit and Marco van Basten, the Netherlands went on to win the whole tournament. They beat the USSR in the final thanks to a header by Gullit and a volley by van Basten. This was the national team's first major tournament win. Despite the talent on the side, the Netherlands were never able to replicate the form they showed in 1988. They lost in the 1990 World Cup to West Germany. The match is forever remembered for the spitting incident between Rijkaard and Voller. With the emergence of Dennis Bergkamp, they reached the semi-finals in 1992, but they were eliminated by Denmark in penalty shootouts. This was Van Basten's last major tournament as he suffered a serious ankle injury shortly after, and eventually retired at the age of 30 in 1995. It was also the last hurrah for Michels. While the Dutch lost a lot of talent, in the following years from 1996 to 2014, they produced new exceptional players. In the 1998 World Cup, the Netherlands team included Bergkamp still, Overmars, Edgar Davids, Frank de Boer, and Kluivert as they reached the semi-finals where they lost on penalties to Brazil. The Dutch were not good on penalties. They ended up losing in the semi-finals of Euro 2000 to Italy on penalties as well. With all their talent, they still couldn't win a tournament. Even in later years when they had players like Van Nistelrooy and Seedorf, they would always fall short in the knockout round. In the 2006 World Cup, they lost to Portugal in a game that was so violent it was nicknamed the Battle of Nuremberg. In 2008, they made it out of the group of death, but then lost to Russia. In 2010, Dutch fans finally thought they were going to win a tournament again. That Netherlands team was so talented with Wesley Sneijder, who was coming off the back of a season where he won the treble with Inter Milan, Arjen Robben, who was killing it for Bayern Munich, Robin van Persie, Rafael van der Vaart, and more. A very well-rounded squad with great players in every position. They beat Brazil in the quarterfinals and then beat Uruguay in the round that the Dutch historically always crumble in, the semifinals. Now was their chance, back in the finals. But they knew it wouldn't be easy. They were going up against a Spain team that was arguably more talented than them, and that Spain national team had just won the Euros 2 years prior. In what was a violent game that saw De Jong karate kick Xabi Alonso, the Netherlands lost the final 1-0. Since that final, the Dutch have been unable to replicate that form. They didn't qualify for either Euro 2016 or the 2018 World Cup. Despite their performances though, the one thing that has remained consistent in Dutch football has been their ability to develop talent through the Eredivisie. Just look at the Ajax team in 2019 who shocked the world by making it all the way to the Champions League semi-finals. Matthijs de Ligt was captaining that side at such a young age, and I still think on his day, he is still one of the best center backs in the world right now. Frankie de Jong along with Jurrien Timber also made their name playing for Ajax. That's only some recent examples. Historically, the best Dutch players have all been graduates of the Ajax Youth Academy. Cruyff, Bergkamp, Schneider, Nigel de Jong, Heitinga, Kluivert, man, I could keep going on. And it's not just Dutch talents that the Eredivisie has developed. As much as people want to hate on Anthony, he was considered one of the top Brazilian prospects in world football when he was at Ajax. Similar story for Luis Suarez and Jan Vertonghen. Suarez was literally one of the best players ever to play in the Dutch league. His goal scoring numbers were ridiculous. Vertonghen was considered one of the best rising center backs in the world. That is why Spurs were after him. Christian Eriksen as well made his name as one of the best attacking midfielders in the world through the Eredivisie. Similar story for managers in the Eredivisie like Ten Hag, who was considered a top managerial target for many big clubs before his move to United. Even if Manchester United were to get rid of Ten Hag, I think a lot of top clubs would be after him. Ten Hag isn't also the only Dutch manager to make his name in the Eredivisie. Liverpool's new manager, Arne Slot, made waves around the world after his great work with Feyenoord. Despite not having a massive budget, Slot helped Feyenoord become Eredivisie champions and led them to a Conference League final while playing an extremely attractive brand of football. So while Ajax may not be as strong as they used to be, the Eredivisie is still producing high quality talents and even managers. The only issue could be that the Netherlands are developing players in random positions. Recently, the Dutch have been incredible at developing defenders and wingbacks. Van Dijk is arguably the best center back in the world, just a perfect mix between speed, strength, and ball playing ability. But then you also have De Ligt, De Vrij, and Ake. Ake has been genuinely incredible for Manchester City, being able to play both at center back and left back. I truly believe that Pep deciding to use Ake as a fullback was a major reason for why City were able to become treble champions. At wingback, you are spoiled with choice. Dumfries, Maatsen, Frimpong, Timber, even Malacia was great before he just disappeared off the map. The crop of talent is amazing, it's just weird that they're all developing in the same position. As we have seen in their history, the Dutch did have good center backs like Rijkaard and Koeman, but historically, they've always been known for their attackers. From Cruyff to Van Basten to Van Persie to Robben, there's usually a standout Dutch attacker in the national team. I feel like that's one of the biggest areas that the Dutch are missing. Depay is good, but very inconsistent. There's certain games where he looks amazing, then other matches where you forget he's on the pitch. Gakpo is good, but even a prime Gakpo is nowhere near the attackers that the Dutch have had in the past. Xavi Simons is probably the one guy who has the potential to get to that high level. He was touted as the next big thing when he was at Barcelona, but a lot of the hype went away. But ever since his performances at PSV and Leipzig, Simon has reminded everyone why he was considered a prodigy. He has the highest ceiling of all the Dutch attackers. Frankie de Jong also has a very high ceiling. I feel his game has stagnated a little bit in the past few seasons at Barca, but on his day, there are not many midfielders better than him. If there are two players that really have the ability to elevate the Dutch national team, it's going to be Xavi and de Jong. The good thing is no matter who's on the team, the Dutch fans will be cheering them on. They are some of the most passionate fans in the world, and they want to support their team making history. This crop of players took the world champions all the way to penalties, so they have the qualities to compete with the best. The fans are coming out in numbers for their nation, and they should be cheering loudly. There's a lot of exciting things happening in Dutch football, and the national team has the ingredients to make some noise in the coming years. One Dutch person that will be making a lot of noise is Arne Slot. To see Arne Slot's tactics, the ones he used at Feyenoord, and how it's going to transfer over to his new role as head coach of Liverpool, you have to check out this video right here.